Coming up next on Hands on Windows, we're going to take a look at the apps that come with Windows 11. Which are the ones you should keep? Which are the ones you can ignore? Which are the ones you might want to delete?
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hands on Windows. I'm Paul Thurrott, and this week I'm going to take a look at the apps that come with Windows 11. You might think of these as bloatware, crapware. We often talk about these kinds of problems with Windows 11, but there's good with the bad, right? And it's not really a good, bad, ugly kind of a thing. It's more like which are the ones you can keep, which are the apps that are the keepers, the ones that are truly useful and maybe semi-universally of interest, which are the apps that you might want to keep but just ignore and only use when you have to use them for whatever reason, and then which are the apps that are just complete duds and you want to just replace them with something else, a third-party app of some kind. So I thought I'd go through, this is not going to be every single app in Windows 11, but maybe the 3, 5, whatever number in each section, right? So for me, the apps that I value the most are, first, I just throw out a big list of things. There are the little utilities, things like calculator here, or the clock app, or the weather app, or whatever. They're just sitting there doing their thing. Not a big deal. I would never replace the calculator app, but I also wouldn't delete it, right? But I do need it every once in a while. It's good to have. No problem there. So get that one out of the way. There are a couple of apps that have been semi-controversial for whatever reason that I use all the time. One of those is Notepad. I love Notepad. Let's bring this thing up again. It's hard to see in dark mode here, but tab-based interface, supports markdown formatting. It's got all this built-in writing help. So if you want to summarize, rewrite it, make it shorter, make it longer, change the tone. I did the demo in one episode where you can turn what you wrote into a poem, which is hilarious. All that stuff. And if you don't like it, just turn it all off. You can come in here and turn, except for the tabs, you can pretty much just turn anything off. So if there are behaviors in here you're not a fan of, just don't worry about it. But to me, this thing is better than it's ever been. It runs perfectly fine. It's not buggy or slow or anything. It's just nicely done. So that to me is I use this app every single day. Clipchamp is another one. We've done probably multiple episodes on this. I'm not going to beat this one to death per se, but a very powerful video editor. It's free. I actually pay for it. You don't have to, but I do pay for this, and that allows me to export in 4K, et cetera, a couple of things. But just an excellent app. So this is just a great one. It's so good that I don't feel the need to download, like, say, a CapCut or whatever other video editor I might use otherwise. So this is also very good. The Microsoft Store, when you think about installing apps, especially in Windows, there's different ways to do it. Obviously, you can just go to the web and download them. But one of the nice things about this app is that it keeps track of what's installed. And if it can, it will keep them automatically updated. There are certain apps that, have to be updated through some web-based mechanism because that's what the app developer wanted or whatever. But all the Microsoft apps, for the most part, will just auto-update. And you see there's a couple here waiting to get updated, which I will not do right now. But that's terrific. The other little caveat here, though, is Microsoft has a command line interface for something called WinGet, or the Windows Package Manager, built in as well. And this allows you to install apps from the web and also kind of manage that. We talked about that at some point, probably last year or so, but you can go in here, and this is another way to keep apps up to date, including apps that were installed through the web, right? And so I'm not going to do this here because there's a bunch of these, but I just do something like when you get it out and then silent. And then I didn't run this as an admin, which I would normally do, but it will just do this without, it will prompt me probably one time now, but 14 apps, or some of these are not really apps, but services, I guess, but that need to be installed. So it's good to know about this, but this stuff to me, this combination of WinGet and the Windows Store is just, to me is really, really good. And the Windows Store didn't start off great, but today it's just in great shape. So it's a good choice for most people. So in the second category, there are the apps that they're good, or they're okay, or they're good enough, whatever. But you might want to keep other apps around, that do something similar. So The biggest one is Microsoft Edge. Now, in this computer, I've actually removed Edge. So we talked at some point about Win11 debloat. I use that tool to remove Edge from this particular computer. But for the most part, I would say you can just leave Edge running. You don't have to worry about that. But just install the browser of your choice, which could be, Chrome or Brave, Opera, whatever browser you prefer. It's useful to have a couple of browsers around. So I'm using Brave right now. But there's no reason for most people to remove anything, but in this case, I did do that. I did get rid of Edge. It's kind of a radical solution. The Xbox app is another one. So this particular computer is Windows 11 on ARM. I'm not going to be doing a lot with gaming on this particular computer, but you can access all of the games in your library, whether that's through Xbox Game Pass, maybe games that you get because of the subscription or you bought in the past, or games you can stream through cloud gaming. Are all available in here. But the nice thing that's occurred here, which is available on this computer, I just haven't installed it, is if you get apps from a third-party store like Steam, which is the most popular one, but also Epic Games and some others, those games will appear in here as well. And so you can use this as a single launcher. I think we did an episode on this fairly recently. So this is a good example of, there's no reason not to have this. It's just, games that are associated with your Microsoft account, but you can also access your other games. Actually, as I look at this now, I can see I do in fact have a game from the Epic Games Store installed, so it is actually showing me everything. So that's nice. So there's that, and we have a few more, but first we have a quick message.
Hey, Paul. Hey, everybody. This episode of Hands on Windows brought to you by Thinkst Canary. Man, I love this thing. This Thinkst Canary is a honeypot. It can be deployed in minutes. It can be anything you want it to be, from a Windows server to a SCADA device to a SSH server. And then you can even set up files that you can put in your cloud, on your hard drives, everywhere. If someone accesses those lure files, they're not real files, but they just look like it, or brute forces your fake internal SSH server, your Thinkst Canary will immediately tell you, you have a problem. No false alerts, just the alerts that really matter. Choose a profile for your Thinkst Canary device, register it with the hosted console for monitoring and notifications, and then you sit back and you relax. Attackers who've breached your network, or malicious insiders and other adversaries, make themselves known by accessing your Thinkst Canary. That's all it takes. You'll know they're in your network. Do you have any other way of knowing if somebody's browsing around in your files? Probably not. That's why you need your Thinkst Canary. Visit canary.tools/twit. For just $7,500 a year, you're going to get 5 Thinkst Canaries, your own hosted console. You get upgrades, you get support, you get maintenance. And if you use the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box, you're going to get 10% off the price. And not just for the first year, for as long as you own your Thinkst Canaries. For life, 10% off. You can always return your Thinkst Canary. They have a great 2-month, 60-day money-back guarantee for a full refund. I should tell you, though, that in the 9 years we've been doing Thinkst Canary ads, I think it's almost 10 years now, their refund guarantee has never been claimed. Visit canary.tools/twit, enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. Thank you, Thinkst Canary, and thank you, Paul. Now back to Hands on Windows.
So some of the apps that I use the most in Windows, oddly, are apps that I also use other apps for the same things, right? So there's Paint and Photos, which are both image editing in some way, or image viewing in Photos case. But I use different apps for image viewing and editing while also using Paint and Photos for very specific things. So basically I keep them there. So Paint, we've talked about a bunch. This has gotten a bunch of AI functionality, including this object selection stuff, all of these lists in the Copilot menu now, which is much longer if you have a Copilot Plus PC, which I do. It does layers, it's turning into a really powerful tool. So that's good for certain kinds of image edits. I use it to make my Christmas card, like when we did that episode sometime in the past year. If I go into images or into pictures rather, and open one of these with photos, you could use this for photo management. You can use it for photo editing, and I usually don't, but I do use it for a couple of things. And so this is really good for that background blur, removal, replace stuff. If you have a Copilot Plus PC, the image restyle stuff is really fun. You can make an image look like a fantasy image, anime, cyberpunk, impressionist, etc. But the thing I actually use the most, and this is something I'm going to keep doing over time, is super resolution, because I could 2x, 3x, whatever, bump the resolution up for an image. And this is awesome for those old scanned-in photos that are really low res, you want to get them up to maybe somewhere in the 4K space. So if you have a Copilot Plus PC, this is just free. It's just there. It's like, why not use it? It's really good. But I don't use them day to day. So for image viewing, I actually use this lightweight utility called Image Class 9. And I believe you actually have to pay for it now. It used to be free, but in the store, I think it's, $5. But the way I have this configured is if I just open an image like this, it opens full screen and there's no UI. So there's no toolbar, there's no gallery at the bottom, there's nothing like that. I can use the arrow keys just to kind of navigate between each of the images in that folder, and I can escape just to get out of there. So it's, it's lightweight. It's not it's nice. And so when you want to go quickly through that, it's really, really nice. There's also a Power Toys tool, which I actually just turned off Power Toys. So let me bring that guy back up. But this thing has and it just changed my, everything to light mode, because one of the Power Toys now will do automatic light and dark mode, and it's day, but I'm going to put this back on dark mode so it doesn't blow your eyeballs out. And what you can do here is hit Control Space on an image or a document, by the way, and it will do a quick preview. So it's kind of it's very much like there's a Mac utility or something built in the Mac does the same thing. And I can use the arrow keys to go around. It's in a window, not full screen. And I can hit escape to get out of it. I think you can also do Control Space to bring it up, Control Space to close. So free. It's an awesome little utility, very helpful, especially if you have a big folder full of files you're not really sure exactly which one you want. And then for image editing, I use something called Affinity. On this computer, it's the old version, Affinity Photo 2, but the new version is just called Affinity, and it's free. And it's basically a Photoshop level application, depending on your needs, and it's wonderful. So I use that thing every single day. So I kind of rotate between those four apps, but there are other apps, like obviously the GIMP you could get, or Paint.net, all kinds of different apps, that stuff. The other one that falls into the same category is the snipping tool. And the snipping tool is wonderful. We've talked about it a lot. It's been updated a lot. The only reason I don't use it full time is that I need to capture the mouse pointer. So if you're making a screen recording, it will capture the mouse pointer. Of course, you move the thing around. But if you're taking a screenshot, it won't. There's no way to enable that. So I use a third-party tool called Greenshot, which is free. I think it's in the store, but if not, it's on the web for sure. And then I know that a lot of other people prefer something called ShareX. I find that one to be a little complicated, frankly, but it's there if you want it. And I believe ShareX is also free. And if snipping tool doesn't meet your needs for screen recording, we're using something called OBS Studio to do this screen recording. That's a powerful tool. It's like anything else like this. It takes a little while to get used to it. Once you do, it starts making sense and you're fine. So if you need something more than what's available in snipping tool for some reason, there are certainly choices there. Now, at the bottom of the list are the irredeemable apps. These are the duds, the apps that I always remove, or usually remove from PCs. Some of them are innocuous. There is an app that it's one of the first things I install. I just don't understand the point of it. There's a Microsoft News app, and this is just a standalone app that you can read the news in. And it's like, don't need an app for that. I have the web for that. So I use web browsers. I read elsewhere. I don't need it. So I just delete it. It doesn't hurt anything to have it there. I just don't like it. Don't need it. The other app that's like that is Media Player. There's nothing wrong with it. It's actually a good looking app, but I don't need it. I don't want it. I use other apps. If you're listening to music, chances are pretty good. You know exactly what to use. You might be in Apple Music, Spotify, whatever it is. There are lots of apps for that. I wouldn't use Media Player, even if I was listening to local files. I also wouldn't use it just to manage, videos, right? But I have a video collection that's on my NAS, and I use an app called VLC Media Player. And there's a lot of reasons to use this app instead of anything else, frankly. But the big one is just that it plays everything, right? This thing is so compatible with so many different file types and so forth. So I have this old file that is up on my NAS here that I can run. But hit F to go full screen, hit F to go out of full screen. You can also just double click. You don't have to listen to that. But it's just so versatile. This is so great. Such a great app. It can convert video or strip the audio out of video. You just want the audio files. It does all this stuff, but it's a much more complete app than what Microsoft has in Media Player. Okay. Now there's the controversial ones. The first one, oddly, I don't actually uninstall this for some reason. I just never run it. I hate this app. Most people do. This is the new Outlook. It is a web-based app, which is not a big deal, but it just doesn't do everything that the old Outlook did, which is a problem for people who have to use it for work. And if you don't need it for work, you shouldn't use it anyway. You should be using whatever I would just use. I do, and I recommend people use just web clients like Gmail, Outlook.com, whatever it might be, or look into third-party clients like Proton Mail or whatever. I wouldn't touch Outlook with someone else's computer, frankly. I really dislike this app. I always have, or have for at least 25 years anyway. But the two really bad ones to me are Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot. I don't know why there are two. I don't know why they're both installed. I don't know why one of them is assigned to a key on a keyboard we can't get rid of either. The whole thing is a mess. I feel like most people who are using AI are either doing it inside of an app, maybe inside of a web browser. If they are using a standalone app for some reason, it's probably going to be ChatGPT, which you can install. It might be Gemini now. Gemini is available in a web tab, but those seem like more common sense to me. You can remove them, which I have on this computer. The problem is that when you hit that key, it's going to prompt you like, okay, Copilot's not here. What do you want to do? And your only choice is to run the search app. And the search is the search pane that you get. If I don't have the search box down here, but like Windows key plus S will bring that up. And that's no good to me either, because when I'm typing and I'm getting sloppy and I'm making mistakes, I'm hitting the Copilot key and I don't want this to come up either. I'm trying to get some work done. So I use a utility inside of PowerToys called Keyboard Manager, and I remap that key to be the left arrow key, because the left arrow key is the one that's right next to it on a laptop keyboard. And that's usually the key I meant to hit when I'm, typing like an ape, and it just works better for that. So I've gotten rid of it. So I can sit here and hit this Copilot key on the keyboard. It's never going to launch. Thank God. I never have to worry about it again. So this is something I don't like. Look, these lists are subjective. You may love some of the apps I can't stand. You may not care for some of the apps I love, right? And so it's going to be different for everyone. But there are third-party alternatives to just about everything. So if there's some app that you just can't deal with and you want something else, it's going to be out there. But I would look at some of these apps. I mean, they're not all bad. And there are some really good apps that are built into Windows 11. And I use some of those apps literally every single day. So hopefully you found this useful. We'll have a new episode of Hands on Windows every Thursday. You can find out more at twit.tv/HOW. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you especially to our Club Twit members. We love you. If you're not a member of Club Twit, please check out the club. You can learn more about that at twit.tv/clubtwit. I'll see you next week.